On my 41st birthday, my family organized a surprise celebration, which turned into a public shaming event. My youngest son took the microphone first and declared, "This man didn't raise me. He destroyed me. He ruined everything he touched." My middle son put on a video called "The Blueprint of a Broken Man," showcasing all the jobs I got fired from in a painful montage. Then my ex-wife appeared, dressed in white like a bride, saying, "I wore this so you'd remember the day you ruined my future." The audience cheered, and my own mother sat in the front row, applauding. My brother raised a glass and toasted to the man who was never present, wishing he would remain that way. One by one, they stood up and declared, "We're done carrying. Your last name." I simply smiled and walked out without saying a word. Later, they received a surprise they weren't prepared for. My phone was bombarded with calls and messages, filled with tears and pleas to talk to them. So yeah, I'm Philip. I'm 41, and I have one of those families that if you know, you know. We all technically live close to one another. I'm in a small apartment, my mom's just 5 minutes away, and my brother, despite claiming he hates this town, is always nearby. My ex-wife still has my last name on her mailbox. My 2 sons, now technically adults, often behave like they're in middle school. I don't even celebrate birthdays anymore, especially since the divorce, but this year felt different from the start. My brother Adriel called me the night before, saying out of the blue, "You're not allergic to cake, right?" I replied, "I'm not. But why?" He just laughed and hung up. The next day, while I was relaxing with my coffee, I received a group text from my mum saying, "Come to Juniper's house at 3. Wear something nice." She added, "Don't be late." I thought, am I being set up for a surprise party? I mean, I know my family has issues, but that seemed somewhat normal for us. Then my youngest Zachary texted me, "Hope you're ready for this," followed by a skull emoji. I replied, "For what?" He left me on red, which wasn't a good sign. When I arrived, there were way more cars than expected, and I didn't recognize half the license plates. A neighbor I hadn't spoken to in 3 years was there, along with old friends of my mum and even one of my ex-wife's friends, who I thought had blocked me on Facebook after the divorce. It felt like an intervention, or maybe a wedding. I walked in, and it was eerily quiet for a moment before everyone began clapping, but it wasn't a cheerful birthday clap. It was that slow, sarcastic clap you see in memes. My mother sat in the front row, hands folded, looking like she was at church. My brother wore a jacket, which was unusual. My ex-wife, Reagan, wore a white dress that seemed to make a statement. Even my oldest son, Albert, stood off to the side with his arms crossed, not pretending to smile. They sat me down in a chair in the center of the room, making me feel like I was on display. I knew something was off, but I waited to see what the punchline would be. My family has always been tough, but this felt different. Zachary took the microphone, and I wondered why there was even a microphone. He looked directly at me and said, "This man didn't raise me. He ruined me. He breaks everything he touches." Everyone stared, and I thought he was joking, but he was completely serious. He started listing off times I missed his soccer games or yelled about the Wi-Fi bill, recalling things I hadn't thought about in years. He said, "Maybe if you had cared about us instead of your own issues, we wouldn't all be so messed up." I sat there, unsure of how to respond because he wasn't wrong about some things, but he twisted it to make it sound like I had never done anything for him. Then Albert stood up and connected his phone to the TV, saying, "Let's show everyone the blueprint of a broken man." It was a video, a highlight reel of all the bad moments, including old clips and screenshots of texts I sent when I was angry or tired. There was a part where he scrolled through a list of jobs I had been fired from, as if reading out my stats. He even played an old voicemail of me apologizing for missing his birthday once, which I did, but I was dealing with a lot. Back then, the whole room watched as if it was a Netflix documentary. Honestly, I didn't even know he still had half of that stuff. Reagan then stood up in her white dress, clearly trying to make a point. She said, "I wore this so you'd remember the day you ruined my future." She spoke about how I destroyed her life, how she was still dealing with the fallout from our marriage, and how she couldn't trust anyone because of me. She wanted everyone to know what it was like to have their future taken away by someone selfish. I could see her hands shaking, but she was enjoying the moment, and the crowd was eating it up. Some even laughed. My brother stood up, raised a glass and said, "To the man who was never there, may he stay that way." I heard a few people mutter, "Damn," under their breaths. My mom just clapped slowly, that fake supportive clap. I looked at her, and she shrugged as if to say, "You brought this on yourself." At that point, I wasn't even mad. I was just done. One by one, everyone stood up, including my brother, my sons, my ex, and even my mum, all declaring, "We're done carrying your last name." Some looked angry, others bored, as if reading off a script. I think even my brother's wife, who never speaks to me, joined in. I sat there for a moment, and part of me wanted to yell back, to tell them they were full of it, and that they wouldn't have half of what they do if I hadn't bailed them out so many times. They were just upset because I finally stopped giving, in every time they asked for something. But I didn't say anything. I just stood up, looked at each of them, and smiled. Not a genuine smile, more like, "You want to play this game? Fine, I can play too." I walked out and nobody followed, not even my mum. I heard someone slam the door behind me, not sure who it was. I got in my car and sat there for a minute, scrolling through my texts while the group chat exploded with messages I didn't read. I drove home and blocked every number that popped up. I didn't feel sad. I was just angry. If they wanted to humiliate me, they better be ready for what came next. So yeah, that was my 41st birthday, my first time, in a long while, that I actually felt like doing something about it. If they thought that was the end, they really didn't know me at all. I had a plan, and they were about to find out how much I had really been holding up. Next update soon. Update 1. So you know how last time I said I had a plan? Well, growing up in a family that treats you like a backup generator teaches you where every wire is, even if no one ever thanks you for it. After that joke of a party, I started noticing the smallest things, like my brother sending me a Venmo request for $40 for pizza and gas on the same day he posted about his new sneakers on Instagram. My mum forwarded me a picture of her broken sink with a sad face, saying she couldn't afford a plumber right now. Reagan tagged me in an old vacation photo and then immediately texted me about the car insurance bill due in 3 days. It wasn't even subtle anymore. They weren't embarrassed, just expectant. The day after the party, I woke up to a text from Adriel saying, "So, are you going to apologize or what?" I stared at my phone for a moment thinking, wow, not even a good morning. No one else reached out except my mum, who sent me one of those praying hands emojis. I ignored them all and started scrolling through my banking app, realizing I was still paying for so much. What was I doing? I wasn't living with these people. I was just a wallet with a Wi-Fi password, so I decided to make some calls. I called my mom's landlord and told her I wouldn't be paying the rent after next month. She got quiet and said she'd talk to my mother directly. I said, "Yeah, do that." I cancelled all my auto-pays. Reagan's car insurance would stop after this payment cycle. And for the boys' tuition loans, I texted them both that they could figure out payment plans with the school now that they were adults. I told my brother no more transfers for his little business. I kept everything documented. No drama, just facts. I informed each of them exactly what was ending and when, so no one could play the "I didn't know" card. It was all in writing. Funny enough, no one said anything for a day. I think they assumed I was bluffing. I got a couple of passive-aggressive memes from Zachary about deadbeat dads, which I'd seen worse. By day 3, though, it was like someone set off a fire alarm. My mum called, not even bothering to say hello, just starting with, "You can't do this to family." I replied, "You made it very clear at the party, I'm not your family." She hung up, and I later heard from an aunt that my mum was telling everyone I had lost my mind. Apparently, not paying her rent was a sign of mental illness now. Reagan showed up at my door, not even knocking, just yelling through the hallway that I was abandoning my responsibilities and humiliating her. She said the car would get repossessed and the boys would have to drop out. I said, "Not my problem anymore." She tried to push past me into the apartment, and I blocked her. She slapped my arm, and I just stood there as she stormed off, slamming the door so hard that the neighbors' dog started barking. I watched her leave, then locked up. I could hear her yelling at someone on the phone in the parking lot, probably calling my brother. Adriel tried a different approach, calling me at midnight and leaving a voicemail saying, "I'm just trying to keep the business afloat. You know how things are. Just need a couple more months. I'll pay you back." I didn't answer. The next morning, he sent me a string of angry texts ending with, "Don't ever ask me for anything again." I just muted him. The dude owed me thousands, but whatever. I wasn't chasing him anymore. Zachary went to my mom and told her I had ruined his future. I got a message from her in all caps, of course, saying I was breaking his heart and that he would never forgive me. I replied, "You all made your feelings clear at the party. You humiliated me in front of everyone. I'm done." She just called me a disappointment, and things got a little messy from there. Reagan called the school, trying to convince them to let the boys stay on good faith. I received an email from the finance office asking if I would reconsider, and I replied, "No." My brother tried to guilt-trip mutual friends, but most of them were tired of his act anyway. My mom called my dad's old friend, hoping he would talk some sense into me, but I didn't pick up. The group chat began blowing up. Zachary said I was acting like a child. Albert said he wasn't taking sides, but that I should be reasonable. Reagan jumped in, claiming I was being abusive, which was ironic considering everything she said at that party. My brother went off, saying I was always the favorite, which was hilarious because I was never even close. I just kept blocking people. I ran into my mom at the store one afternoon. She tried to ignore me, but suddenly walked over and started arguing, not caring who heard. She said I was destroying the family, and I replied, "You already did that for me." She slapped my shoulder and I just walked away. Honestly, I thought I would feel guilty, but I was just tired. They wanted to act like I was never there. Fine. Now they could see what that was actually like. I wasn't going to pay for anyone's mistakes anymore. If that made me the villain, so be it. The real kicker? Now that the money was drying up, they were all fighting with each other. I started receiving screenshots from my cousin about the family group chat, where everyone was blaming and accusing one another. It turns out that when you take away the person who always fixes things, nobody else steps up. Who knew? So yeah, that's where we're at. I'm not rescuing anybody. I'm not picking up the phone. I'm not playing nice. If they wanted me gone, they could see what gone actually means. The next part is coming. Trust me, it gets even pettier. Update 2. I didn't expect it to get this messy this quickly. I'm kind of impressed at how fast the "we're done with you" energy faded once I pulled the plug. Within a week, the atmosphere in the family group chat shifted from good riddance to "so what now?" and it only got weirder from there. The first odd sign was Adriel posting cryptic stories on Instagram about how some people aren't loyal and that not everyone is family. Nothing direct, but everyone knew he was talking about me. Then my mum began sharing old photos from family gatherings with captions like, "Remember when we cared about each other?" She tagged everyone except me. How subtle, right? I received a call from my cousin, someone I don't talk to much, asking, "Did you really stop paying for grandma's rent?" I just said, "Ask her." 2 days later, my mum was calling me non-stop before switching to texting in all caps, then silence. I figured she hoped I would cave if she gave me the cold shoulder. Instead, I got a call from her landlord asking if she was moving out. I simply replied, "I'm not part of their arrangement anymore." The landlord sighed and said, "Yeah, I figured." So now everyone was scrambling. I started hearing about it secondhand, which was honestly kind of entertaining. Reagan apparently tried to use my name to call the car loan company, but they shut her down. She texted me, saying, "You can't just leave me in this mess. This is your fault." I replied. You literally told a room full of people you were done with me. She said, that was just for show. You know how these things are. I didn't respond. Then Zachary, my youngest, posted on TikTok about how his toxic parent ruined his college plans. I saw it because my cousin sent it to me with a laughing emoji, but I didn't say anything. Albert, the oldest, actually emailed me, which was unusual, and tried to guilt trip me about how he would have to take a semester off if I didn't pay. I just forwarded him the email from the school's finance office. He said, "You're being petty. You're punishing us for being honest." I replied, "You were never honest. You just wanted an audience." Meanwhile, Adriel's business was struggling because I wasn't covering his overdrafts anymore. I heard from a mutual friend that he got into a shouting match with his wife about money. She called me, asking if I could just help them out for a bit, and I said, "Not my circus." She responded, "You're unbelievable," and then hung up. Later, I heard she actually threw a mug at Adriel, and he had to clean the kitchen himself. Honestly, not my problem. My mum was the wildest, though. She tried to go around me and called one of my old friends to see if he would talk to me about family obligations. The guy texted me saying, "Your mum's going through it." I just replied, "Yeah, she'll figure it out." Next thing I knew, she was posting on Facebook about how some people never appreciate the sacrifices mothers make. The comments were chaotic, with people picking sides and family drama everywhere. Then the boys started fighting with each other. I only knew because I got included in an email chain where Zachary blamed Albert for escalating everything at the party, and Albert said he only made the video because Zachary pushed him. They looped in Reagan, who said, "I told you both not to go too far." At this point, I was almost impressed at how quickly their unity fell apart. There were many little things too, like Adriel trying to show up at my apartment. When I saw him through the peephole, I didn't answer. He banged on the door and then left. My mum tried to corner me at the grocery store, blocking my cart and saying, "You're going to regret this." Then she pushed my shoulder and stormed off, knocking over a display on her way out. Reagan stopped by, trying to guilt trip me again, saying, "I hope you're happy," before slamming the door behind her. I just put on my headphones and ignored it. Social situations became awkward too. My aunt invited me to a barbecue and then uninvited me after my mum complained. Some people tried to stay neutral, but you could tell everyone was picking sides. I got DMs from people I hadn't heard from in years, asking what happened, and I just said, "Ask them." The wildest part was that no one actually apologized, not once. It was all blame and deflection, like they thought I would just fold and come crawling back. Instead, they were turning on each other. I guess when you base your entire relationship on someone else's money, you don't have much left when it's gone. The group chat is dead now, except for the occasional angry rant from Adriel or a guilt trip meme from my mom. I muted it weeks ago. I'm just living my own life now, paying my own bills, and not getting dragged into their drama. I see Reagan at the gas station. She glares at me, and I just nod and keep going. Adriel's wife tried to call again, but I blocked her. Albert texted me saying, "You really don't care about us, do you?" I didn't even bother answering. So, yeah, that's where things stand. I know this isn't a neat story with a happy ending. I'm not expecting anyone to change. I just want them to finally see what life is like when the person they spent years trashing actually walks away. And trust me, the final move is coming, and they're not ready for it. Next update soon. Final update. I honestly thought by now they would freeze me out and move on. But it turns out when you kick the wrong pillar out from under a house, the whole thing becomes shaky. Not that any of them would admit it, even now. In my last post, I said the group chat was dead. Not entirely true. It just shifted from everyone piling on me to everyone circling each other, taking turns blaming and poking, trying to get someone else to fix things. Now they're coming for me again, but it's too little, way too late. It started pretty quietly, just the usual petty stuff. Adriel texting me a screenshot of his bank overdraft, like that's going to magically fix his problems. My mum's neighbour cornered me at the grocery store saying, "Your mother's not herself lately. Maybe you should call her. I replied, she knows my number. I received a series of emails from Albert about his financial aid, always CCing Reagan, who started signing her messages for the boys' sake. I still can't believe she thinks that will work. But then the real fun began. I got a letter from the property manager of the building where my mum lives. Her lease is up in 60 days, and I'm the one who has been on the paperwork for years, even though she's the tenant. I never told her, but I put the notice of non-renewal in the mail myself. She texted me in all caps, "You're making your own mother homeless." I replied, "You're a grown woman, you'll figure it out." She tried to call, but I blocked her. My aunt attempted to get involved, and I blocked her too. Adriel started panicking because his business loan, which, let's be real, was me covering his credit card bill, was now being called in by collections. I even went through the trouble of sending all our texts and payment records to the collection agency. He showed up at my apartment, pounded on the door and yelled, "You're screwing me over on purpose." I stood in the doorway and said, "You did it to yourself." He tried to shove past me, but I blocked him. He pushed my chest, and I just stared at him as he left, slamming the stairwell door so hard that it echoed. Reagan's car got towed right out of her driveway. She called me, losing it, saying the boys would never forgive me and that I was a monster. I replied, "You made your choice at that party." She tried to threaten me with some legal action, but the car was in my name, and I had cancelled the insurance, so that was that. She attempted to slap me when she saw me in the parking lot at the grocery store, but I stepped back, and she just yelled at me instead. People were watching, but no one said anything. The thing is, they're all clever in their own ways. They know how to guilt trip and make things seem like my fault. But now that everything is actually crumbling, they're just desperate. Zachary called me from an unknown number, skipping the small talk and going straight to, "You ruined my life. You never cared about us. I hope you're happy." I replied, "You'll get over it." He hung up. I received a voicemail from my mum. She was crying, then angry, then quiet, saying she couldn't believe her own son would do this and that she should have never let me back into her life after Dad left. I listened to the entire message, then deleted it. My phone began blowing up with group chat messages, missed calls, voicemails, even Facebook messages from distant family members. Everyone had an opinion, but no one had an actual solution. It's wild how fast it all fell apart. Albert dropped out for a semester and texted me, "Thanks for nothing, Dad. Hope you're proud." I didn't respond. Reagan's new boyfriend confronted me at the gas station, calling me a deadbeat. I said, "You can pay your bills if you want," and then walked away. Adriel posted on Twitter about how betrayal always comes from those closest to you. My mum went back to tagging me in old family photos with passive-aggressive captions, and I blocked them all one by one. The biggest surprise for them, I think, is that I actually followed through. They thought that whole public spectacle would make me just accept it and keep paying for their issues, but I'm not their villain anymore. I'm just not anything to them. Now they're scrambling, begging, and threatening. I even received a handwritten letter from my mum. Seriously, when was the last time anyone used a stamp? It said, "Please just talk to us. Please, please just talk to us." I won't lie, part of me thought I'd feel guilty, but I just feel free. I don't owe them anything, not after that. They wanted to make me the bad guy. Fine. I'll be the bad guy who doesn't pay their bills, who doesn't pick up the phone, who doesn't show up just to get slapped or screamed at. I see them in public sometimes, and it's just nods or dirty looks. No one tries to talk. Maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe they won't. All I know is I'm not carrying any more weight that isn't mine. They can keep the last name or drop it. It doesn't matter to me. I finally have my own life to live. So yeah, that's the end of it. No happy ending, no dramatic apology, no family reunion, just a bunch of voicemails I'm never going to answer.